Hi friends, my name is Marina Shepelsky. I'm an immigration attorney and founder of Shepelsky Law Group. We're a group of immigration attorneys and experts working with all the 50 states, but based in New York City. And today's video is about these red flags for the Stokes interview. The interview where maybe something went wrong in your first marriage green card interview, and the Stokes interview is your second interview, where they often separate you and ask both spouses the same questions, but when you're alone with the officer. So this video is your guide on how to prepare and prepare ahead of time. Don't do this at the last moment. And how to avoid doing these things. These red flags will fail you. If you don't do them, if you do the opposite, you will pass the interview. Before I get into, I invite you to become a follower, a subscriber of our channel. Give us a like if you like this video, and we'll make more videos like this with really cool immigration-based content. So the first thing that you will do when you get to the Stokes interview is you will do the oath of, telling the truth. You'll sit down and they will ask you for your ID. Here's red flag number one. When you start the interview, right off the bat, they look at your driver's license, or in New York, we have a non-driver's state ID, and they see if your addresses match with your spouse. You have to understand, to immigration, the main point of this interview is to prove that the spouses live under the same roof. If you don't live under the same roof, they consider your marriage fraudulent, false. You're lying to them. Even in reality, outside of immigration, I know people who are really married but work in different states, do commuter marriages. That kind of marriage is super, super difficult for immigration to buy. Like, they won't believe you. They'll think you're selling them BS. So to them, they don't have the resources to come to everybody's house and check if you live together. Proof of you living together is your IDs, your, identification. In America, you can fly domestically with just your driver's license. So they consider your driver's license or your non-driver's but state-issued government ID your main ID. And if that ID doesn't match to the address that your spouse has, you have different addresses. And people always give me crazy excuses like, I moved, but my parents still get all my mail. I don't want my mail going to my address where I live with my spouse. We have bad mailmen there. We don't get our mail. I hear you, but I'm telling you that immigration just won't buy it. They'll think you're lying, and you will begin your interview on a bad note. Flag number two, your bills and your tax statements and your joint bank statements, right? So you have to have at least one utility bills that has both first names on it. Now, some people have, like, let's say gas in the spouse, one's name, husband or wife, and electricity in the second spouse's name. That sort of works, but I'm talking about creating utility bills from when you move in together that have both spouses at least first names on it. People say, well, I didn't have a social, so they couldn't add me. Add your spouse as a middle name, just their first name. If your utility company refuses to add their full name, do like a care off line. So the first line would say Jason Peters. The second line would say C/O, care of Marina Shepelsky. So let's pretend Jason Peters and Marina Shepelsky live together. The address will be under that. So that is definitely something you want to do. If you don't have that, they might consider that a red flag. Next red flag, your tax returns. We just mentioned them. If you have separate tax returns and they have different addresses, huge red flag. If you're married, you should be filing your tax returns for immigration purposes. For immigration purposes only, we're talking about in this video. As jointly filed married. If one spouse shows they're single, you're lying. It's tax fraud. If you're married, you cannot file as single. Instead, you could file as head of household or married filing separately. That's legal. But when you put in your tax returns while being married to the very person you're at this federal immigration interview with, as single, you lied to another federal agency, the IRS. and they're going to look at you like you're a liar and a fraudster. So if your tax returns show different addresses, and if one of them has single on it, they'll say you're a liar, and they might not believe anything else you're going to sell them or tell them. Like, they'll consider it you're selling them something. You're lying to them. Next, you can file as head of household, and the other person could file as like married, filing separately, and you can use the same address for taxes. That works. Two people cannot file as head of household. It just doesn't work like that. So you can choose the designation on your tax return as married filing separately and married filing separately if you really wish to file separately. And some people have tax reasons to do that. But at least put the same address and put married filing separately. That is the best way to do it if you really insist on filing separately. The best way to do this for immigration is to file on one tax return, joint filing as married. And you have to figure out how to put the immigrant spouse on the tax return, even if they don't have a social yet. Or maybe wait until they get a social and do an amended. So that means the other spouse has to do an extension, wait for you to get your social, and only then file your joint married tax return. And talk to your accountant if you have questions about this. There are ways around things like that. But for immigration interviews, we need joint filed as married tax return. That means both of you are going on one tax return. Next, bank statements. You could have a joint bank statement, right? But if it's not used, if it's just sitting there with the same $500 that you put in there, when you opened it, they don't care about seeing this. They will not consider this proof of your marriage. And you might as well have thrown those statements in the garbage. They will not give them any what's called evidentiary value. They will not consider them for your case. If you have a joint bank account that you obviously do not use, don't use it for immigration, because it's going to make you look even worse than just not having one, right? If you have separate bank accounts, but they have the same address on them, that might work better. So the lesson here is, if you do have a joint bank account, use it. And it's absolutely okay to have a joint account and each of you to have separate accounts also, in addition to this joint account. But remember, they check addresses. They can just put something in their computer and check your address records in 2 minutes. Even I can do it on a regular computer, and I don't have government clearance. Address records are easily traceable now online. Google knows everything. So if you're not really living together, it's going to be super hard at your interview to explain why your mail is going to some address with some other chick's name on it. I'm just telling you from experience. And finally, have a good photo album with you in chronological order. We were dating, here's pictures. We were married, wedding pictures, and after the wedding. Now, no X-rated naked photos. They don't want to see those, and they will upset them, okay? They want to see your family photos. Family photo albums. Imagine if you're taking this to your grandma and you want to show your grandma your dating history, the wedding pictures, and what happened after you got married. You're not going to show grandma boobies, right? You're going to show grandma, here we are in Atlantic City. Here we are in Las Vegas. We went on a picnic. We went to dinner with friends. You two as a couple with different people at different times and different clothes and different events. You could tell it's Christmas or Ramadan or Thanksgiving or 4th of July or somebody's birthday from these pictures. That's the album you're gonna have to work on, put together, and bring to the interview. And the officer will take 2 or 3 photos from you to keep, so be prepared to give them away for keeping, okay? And make sure whatever originals you bring of all the joint documents, of your passports, birth certificates, you also bring 1 copy of everything, at least 1 copy of everything, because they will take your joint documents from you and keep it for their file. Thanks for watching. If you watch this video before you go to your Stokes interview, you will definitely prepare and pass. And remember, you have to know the other spouse's biographical information, date of birth, your wedding date, where did you live when you met, where did you move together, when did you move out. All this information they will expect you to know from your brain, not by looking at papers, all right? So be prepared and get that green card. Bye everyone, thank you for watching. Follow our channel, give us a like, hit that little bell to become a subscriber. See you later, bye.